Fear of Baltic countries. Probability of Russian invasion within 3 years is very high. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia appeal for joint contribution to preparedness. Poland's new Prime Minister Donald Tusk is holding a press conference in Warsaw on the 27th, local time. Eastern European countries that were part of the former Soviet Union or were satellite states during the Cold War are raising the alarm one after another about the possibility of a Russian invasion. As the situation in Ukraine turns in Russia's favor and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has advocated resurrecting the glory of the former Soviet Union, has taken power virtually permanently, the fear is spreading that Russian invasion cannot be avoided.
Leaders appealed directly to overseas media to inform global public opinion of the immediate threat. On the 30th, the British ambassadors to the Baltic countries, including Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, published a joint contribution titled, "The Baltic Countries Are Europe's New Front" in the Sunday edition of the British Daily Telegraph, Sunday Telegraph. In their contribution, they said, "We are keenly aware that Russia's guns can quickly pivot from Ukraine in the south to Eastern Europe in the west, and a strategic challenge to our defense and deterrence of aggression, namely a Russian invasion, is 3 years away. It could happen within that time," he claimed.
They also point out that Russia's hybrid attack using non-military methods is already taking place, and that sovereignty is threatened amid a storm of fake news. According to Russia's hybrid attack, Putin's claims such as the war broke out due to NATO's eastward advance, and the West refuses peace negotiations and support Ukraine, so only the people suffer, are spread on social media and throughout the media. Attempts to protect sovereignty and democracy are being criticized as Russia's clear intention to invade, and policies that run counter to the people's livelihood are being diluted. The ambassadors of the three countries emphasized that the failures of the past should not be repeated. Even in the 1930s, we continued to warn of the growing threat from the East, the Soviet Union, but some allies ignored it. They said even then only collective defense could guarantee the security of Europe, but it was not enough, and a heavy price was paid. Now Ukraine is paying the price, he said. He went on to say NATO needs faster decision-making, and member countries need more defense investments, and urged a clear schedule should come out at the NATO summit to be held in Washington, D.C. this summer. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk also expressed the same position in an interview on the German daily Die Welt on the 29th. He said war is no longer a concept of the past, but an immediate reality, and pointed out that we are now living in the pre-war era. In particular, he emphasized that Putin could use the recent terrorist attack at a Moscow concert hall as an excuse to expand the war in Ukraine. Putin and Russian authorities claimed that the attack was a conspiracy between Ukraine and the West. Through this, Russia could justify indiscriminate attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure and use it as an excuse to escalate war against the West. Prime Minister Tusk argued that compared to the reality of heightened threats, there is still a long way to go in strengthening Europe's defense capabilities. He also emphasized that while maintaining a strong alliance with the United States, we must have an independent and self-sufficient defense capability.
Poland has recently made large investments in strengthening its national defense capabilities and is purchasing Korean-made fighter jets, tanks, self-propelled guns, and rocket launchers worth close to $17.5 billion. In an effort to strengthen independent national defense, Poland, having witnessed Russia's surprise invasion of Ukraine, felt threatened that it could be the next victim after Ukraine.
Poland and the Baltic countries had the bitter experience of being invaded by the Soviet Union in 1939 and 1940, respectively. These countries had to experience countless oppressions and human rights abuses under Soviet communist rule that lasted for almost half a century.
In particular, Poland did not get back much of the territory it lost at the time, even after the end of World War II. Instead, part of the defeated German territory was ceded to Poland, and Poland's sovereignty and right to self-determination were virtually ignored. Among the three Baltic countries, Estonia and Latvia share a border with Russia, and Lithuania and Poland can also be entered directly after passing through Belarus, a pro-Russian country. Belarus also gave up its territory to Russia during Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, and Russian troops drove tanks into the vicinity of Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, through Belarus. The Baltic states and Poland are both NATO members, protected by Article 5 of the NATO Treaty Collective Defense, which states that an attack against one member state shall be considered an attack against all NATO allies. Former US President Donald Trump, who is running as a Republican candidate in the November US presidential election, sparked controversy by saying countries that do not properly pay NATO defense costs will encourage a Russian invasion. At present, it is clear that Trump will be re-elected as President of the United States, but it is currently impossible to predict whether Trump will encourage Putin to invade Europe if NATO member countries are not satisfied with the defense budget. Instead of solely depending on NATO's collective defense, each European country should prioritize thorough preparations for independent national defense, drawing inspiration from examples such as Poland and benchmarking strategies employed by countries like South Korea in the Far East Asia region. Thank you for watching. This is Tony, and I worked alongside Leah and Gina